Welcome to this short video on publishing endpoints to API Gateway. As you can see, I'm within a project. So this is within the context of a project. I have my integration here, Process NetSuite Contact. In order to publish, the integration has to be active. So I click on Publish to API Gateway. Here I can see which endpoints I have. I've get and post here for the contact. Now I select the compartment for my API gateway. Then I go in and select the actual API gateway. Now, when it comes to the deployment, here I can create a new deployment or choose an existing one. Now, I will choose the existing NetSuite deployment here, but this is one of the differences between what we're doing here in OIC 3 compared to Gen 2. Within Gen 2, every publishing of an endpoint created a new deployment in OCI Gateway. The problem is OCI Gateway has a max of 20 deployments per gateway instance. However, within each deployment, you can have routing rules or routes for up to 50 of them. So essentially, I could have up to 1,000 APIs endpoints managed through the API Gateway. So that's the reason here where I can select an existing deployment. So it's not a one-to-one relationship as in Gen 2. So I select NetSuite deployment, and then I click the publish button. Now, while I'm waiting for that to publish, you can see as well, we do have the unpublish functionality as well. So here, I've already published this guy here. And as you see, I have the ability to view that deployment in OCI API Gateway, or else I can actually click here and do the unpublish. So full lifecycle support here. Thank you.
Hello, this is an overview on POPs-up or event-driven integrations in OIC 3. The events in OIC 3 are considered first-class citizens. One can simply go to design and create events based on some JSON or XML schema, and you can either upload the JSON schema or you can use this editor to build your event definition. Once you do that, you can create publisher and subscriber integrations, and creating publisher integrations is similar to creating any other integrations. You go to application, give it a name, call it new integration, create. So once you have your trigger in place, with your mapping, you simply go to the action menu, and from the call section, you drag or select publish events and drop it in your into your integration. And this can be done from anywhere in your integration, within loops, outside of loops. At the beginning or the end of your integration, you can implement this publish call. And then once you do that, you can select from, if you have several event types already created, you can select from those. This is one event type that I have created so far. I could select this or define a new event type. And that, again, would be simply giving it a name, and provided with your event definition, either in JSON or XML. And that will complement your publish action. Now, this is on the publishing side. Once you do that, on the subscriber side, to create a subscriber, you simply select from the menu, create menu, and event-based integration. And then again, you define the event type for this subscriber. And if you're starting backward with creating your subscriber first, and you would like to create the event definition, in here you can do so, or you can select from one of your pre-existing event types. And once you do that, assign an event type to it, then you're done. You save and exit. Now, for the purpose of this demo, I have already created and activated 2 integrations, one to publish, another one to subscribe for the same event definition. I go to this publish event integration, go to run. I give it some sample data. So give it last name Shiraz, first name Milad. Give it an ID of 9,998, and it's been changed true. I run this, and you can see that in the activity stream, this is executing nicely, so no problem with this. Now, if I go back to my observability section, note that my subscribing integration is called subscribe to event, and my publishing integration is called publish event. If I go to my observability integrations, you can see that just now one publish event did receive and process some events, and then immediately after the subscribe to event also received and processed some events. So you can see the correlation between publishing and subscribing of events, how one is executed after the other. In the subscription section under observability, you can see all the subscribers with their statuses, and if they have any retained events within the retention period would also be listed here. So if you have more than 1 subscribers, you'll see several of these listed with their statuses and any number of retained events.
Welcome. In this lesson, I'll be discussing the options you have for defining a schedule for schedule pattern integrations. But first, let's revisit the 3 patterns we discussed way back in the first module: application, schedule, and event. As you may recall, the key difference with these is how the integration is triggered. Now, while many use cases require the application pattern to define an interface or to subscribe to a business event or poll for new data, using the schedule pattern allows for the integration to instead be triggered manually or by defining a schedule for future runs. For example, consider a use case where your integration initially reads a trigger file and then downloads a file for further processing. After designing this integration, you can schedule when and how often to run it, or you can execute it on demand. Now, initiating an ad hoc run can be done anytime after the integration has been activated. Just click Run from the drop-down menu. However, you can also invoke a run from another integration flow or even from an external client using the OIC REST API. But of course, the focus of this lesson is defining a schedule. So let's look at your options. As you're designing the integration, even before it's configured and activated, you can click here to edit the schedule, or you can wait until later, even after it is activated, to add and define a schedule for the integration. When you do, the scheduler page is displayed where you have two options. To define a basic schedule, select the Simple Recurrence option. Then in the frequency section, the default is the Only Once option, where you then just need to indicate the start date and time. However, most often you'll want to choose a frequency that repeats based on some interval of time, minutes, hours, days, weeks, even months. You can even combine one or more of these options together to create whatever unique interval you wish to define. However, for a simple schedule, there is a minimum frequency limit of 10 minutes. Otherwise, you'll get a validation error. Next, to define the time period for this schedule, you can either accept the default, where it will start once you start the schedule, and it never expires. Of course, you always have the option to pause or stop the schedule manually whenever you wish. Or you can provide a start date and time as well as an expiration date and time. And of course, you'll want to indicate the time zone to use as per your business requirements. To configure a more advanced schedule, choose instead to provide an iCal expression. This syntax allows you to create a more specific schedule, such as with this example, which runs only on these specific days and at these specific times. Also, unlike the simple schedule, which cannot be less than every 10 minutes, these can be as frequent as every 1 minute if required for your use case. And just as with simple schedules, you can also define a specific start time as well as an expiration for the schedule. For even more complex scenarios, you can combine more than one frequency. This expression is a configuration that requires 3 schedules separated by an ampersand. Here the schedule runs every day between the hours of 5:30 and 7:30 p.m., processing every 10 minutes. Notice also the by second syntax, which allows you to define more granular run frequencies. However, remember, there must be at least 1 minute between scheduled runs. Once the schedule is defined, you click to return to the scheduler page. However, if you attempt to start it, you'll get this error message banner reminding you that the integration must first be in an active status, since you can only edit from this page when it's deactivated. So you must exit, then activate the integration. Then now, when you return to the schedule page, clicking Start will present this confirmation dialog box. And if you are an OIC administrator, you can choose to start the schedule as another user. Otherwise, for the developer role, the schedule will be assigned to you. When confirmed, the schedule transitions to a starting status. Then very soon the schedule will be running. Selecting a time window, you'll see the upcoming runs for this integration over that period of time. Of course, you can also choose to pause or even stop the schedule at any time. And that's it for this lesson. However, we will be discussing more topics related to schedule pattern integrations in subsequent videos. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. In this lesson, we'll learn about these unique parameters that are only available for schedule pattern integrations. I'll start with some context. Once you've designed and implemented the integration to execute some use case, such as in this example, once activated and scheduled, there can be multiple runs that execute that same logic, and for some use cases, you're going to want to pick up processing where the previous instance left off. Schedule parameters are assigned a default value when you first create them, but you can then change that value from the OIC Service Console at any time, even after the schedule has started. They can also be assigned an updated value dynamically within an integration run instance using an assign action, where that new value becomes available across all subsequent scheduled runs of the integration, which can facilitate processing of data from one run to the next. For example, when performing batch processing, a schedule parameter could track the current position of batch data between runs. Remember that regardless of the schedule frequency, the next run won't execute until the previous run instance has completed. In other words, there will only be one instance at any time actively running in a series of multiple scheduled runs. To create a parameter, select Edit from the Schedule Element menu at the top to open the Configure pane. Click the plus icon and then provide a name for the parameter, an optional description, as well as a default value. Now, to create more, just click the plus icon again and keep adding as many as you need. To update the value of a parameter dynamically, you would use an assign action as shown here. And keep in mind that you can access that value anywhere within your integration flow, since it is always available in the sources section of map editors and when editing expressions. Now, some use cases can also take advantage of assigning one or more parameters to business identifier tracking fields. But the key point to remember is that whatever value gets assigned within an integration instance, that parameter will have the same new value when the next run of the integration is launched. You can also manually override parameter values when you start a schedule. Once you have confirmed the user to be assigned for the submission, you'll be prompted to accept the current parameter values, or you can choose to provide new values prior to starting the schedule. Likewise, when you choose to initiate an ad hoc run, prior to clicking the Run button, you'll have the opportunity to override the current value of these parameters. And that's it for this lesson on using schedule parameters. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. In this video, I'll provide a demonstration involving the use of OIC accelerators within a project. The first part of the demo shows how we can add customization logic to an integration that was based on an accelerator. We do this within what are called extension groups. Then I'll demonstrate how to import and adapt a new version of that accelerator for that same integration flow. First, let's take a look at the producer's OIC project environment, where someone has created two integrations involving Oracle ERP and Oracle CX Sales Cloud. Essentially, the idea here is that whenever an order is created in ERP Cloud, it will be passed on to the Sales Cloud, which will enable the Sales Cloud to show the related orders within the context of an account. You can see that the producer has created two versions of these integrations, version 1 and version 1.01, which has some additional functionality. So in order to deliver this project as an accelerator, over on the deploy page, the producer creates two deployment versions, then exports the entire project as an accelerator. To save time, I've already exported this as an accelerator and I've published it into the integration store. Let's now switch over to the view of an accelerator consumer. To use the accelerator, we click Install, then choose which version. For this demo, let's start with version 1. Now that the accelerator has been installed, let's head over to the project screen. Notice here that only the version 1 integrations are available. Of course, there are connections that need to be configured, but to save time for this demo, I'll just skip over that. And now you can see that the integrations have been configured. I'm going to choose to add some additional logic to this accelerator. So to do that, I'll click on the desired integration, ERP CX Order Create, and I'll click on Extend. As the design canvas for this integration opens, remember that an extension is basically your additional logic that you can insert within the context of the integration flow. Now, for this integration, the built-in logic is to create a child object for the account so that within the Sales Cloud, the consumer can see the orders. For this customization, I want to pass an additional field of data to the Sales Cloud Invoke call. So to add that additional mapping, I'll first add an extension group. Here I can provide some meaningful name for the group and perhaps a description. Now, within this new group scope, I click plus to add a new data stitch activity. For the data stitch, what I want to do is to locate and update a field which has not been updated out of the box in the built-in solution. In this case, it is the order status. For this demo, I'll just assign a string to say in sync. Of course, I could have assigned some other dynamic value. I'll click outside the box to update the edits. And now I'll save the integration itself. Now that this integration has been extended, let's go ahead and activate it. Notice here that instead of just activating the integration flow separately, I can choose to activate a particular deployment within this project, which will take care of activating everything. In this case, there is only one version, so now I'll just click Activate. To test this solution, I'll log into the Oracle ERP Cloud to create a new sales order. I'm selecting the customer and other fields now will be populated. I select the desired business unit, also select the bill to account. I'll quickly search for a desired item I wish to add, and now I'll add that order item to the order, and of course submit this order, where behind the scenes ERP Cloud has also sent this order to our integration flow in OIC. Here we'll make note of this new order number 672. I can now go back to my OIC project over here to the Observe page. Let me refresh the page. The ERP Order Reader integration has consumed the order, and the ERP CX Order Create integration has transformed and modified the order number 672, sending it to the CX Sales Cloud. To take a look at this further, I can go into the CX Sales Cloud. Here, looking at the computer service accounts, I'm looking at the order management child object, and if I click on search, I should see that new item from order 672, and I can see that the order status field is updated. So this is version 1 of the solution. Let's look to update the version. I'll go back to OIC to update to the new version of the pre-built solution. So for that, I would go into Home, then View All of the recipes and accelerators. Here I can see that there is an update, and as I click on Install, notice that it will recognize that one version is already installed, so I'll install 1.01 as well. And now once the new accelerator version has been installed, I can go to the project and see that it has brought in additional artifacts. In addition to version 1 integrations, there are also 1.01 integrations. However, before looking at the new integration version, since there is an extra data field that has been added to the CX Sales Cloud application called item number, in order for the new integration version to work, I'll need to refresh that connection endpoint. To do that, I click Refresh Endpoints of that integration. I need to select the endpoint that needs refreshing. In this case, it's the CX Sales connection, and click Refresh. I'll now close this pane. In a moment, the integration will be updated to show the refreshed connection. Okay, now that the endpoint is refreshed, I'll select the new integration version and click Extend. You'll see that it recognizes a previous version may need to be merged, or we can skip it. In this case, we will merge the extensions from version 1. And to verify the merge, let me navigate over here in the design canvas, and I'll look for that extension group. Yes, here it is, and there's my data stitch activity where I can see that it has indeed merged what I had configured earlier. So now what I need to do is to edit this further to configure the mapping for that additional field in Sales Cloud, which has been added to that order management child object. So indeed, that new field item number has been detected in the connection configuration wizard, and for demo purposes, I'll assign 9999 as the value. I'll click outside the pane to synchronize the changes, and now I'll save the integration flow. Notice here that version 1 integrations are still active, but now what I want to do is activate the new version, so I can select the 1.01 version under Project Deployment. As I do that, OIC will automatically deactivate the version 1 integrations and will activate the 1.01 versions containing the latest logic. Here we can now see that the new versions have both been activated. To test this, let's head back over to the ERP Cloud to create another order. And to save time, I've already now added the item, and I'll just now click Submit. We'll note that the new order number is 673. Let's take a look once again at the Observe page in the OIC project. And here we can see that order number 673 has indeed arrived and has been processed. Now, back over to the Sales Cloud. If we search once again, we are able to see the item from order number 673, and indeed, the item number has been assigned from the integration. And that's it for this demo, where we showed how accelerators can be extended with custom logic, as well as new versions created, merging the custom logic from earlier versions, as well as extending additional custom logic. Thanks for watching.
Hello everyone. In this demo, we are going to talk about the Fusion Service and Field Service Accelerator for synchronizing the work order and activities. As part of this accelerator, Fusion Service and Field Service team have built up the scenarios like work order create, update, and reschedule as it happens on Fusion Service are being cascaded to the Field Service. And similarly, as the Field Service technician works on it or does any activity, those are updated back to the Fusion Service. Or scenarios like if they attach an attachment, they get updated. Or if there is any follow-up activities or additional multi-segment, all these scenarios are handled in this accelerator. So what we are going to do today is we are going to install this accelerator and configure it and then extend it to meet our business needs. So without further delay, let's go to the Oracle integration screen. So to find this accelerator, one needs to go to the recipes and accelerators homepage. In here, I've already set the filter to show only the accelerators. So here is the accelerator which we are installing today. So as I click on install, the Oracle integration is fetching the artifact from the store and installing it onto the current service instance. As it gets installed, we will navigate. Okay, so installation is done. we will quickly navigate to the projects, and we see that the accelerator has been installed. So let's now go in and do the configuration. Okay, so to save some time, I have skipped over the configuration. Now that the accelerator is configured, I have configured the connections that are required for my demo scenario, and I have activated the integrations which are required. So let's now go ahead and create the work order in the Fusion service. So here is my Fusion service instance. I will go ahead and create the work order. So let's get started. First type in the account. Let's type in the contact. Let's select the time zone. Let's select the type of the work order as repair. Select the work order area. Let's select the resource who will be working on it, and these resources are coming from the field services. They are synchronized with the field service. Now let's click on save and continue. As you can see here, the work order is submitted and it's waiting for confirmation from the field service because it is integrated system where to confirm that it has been scheduled successfully. So to refresh, we have to just click on the refresh. Okay, now let's go to the project and see whether we can find the instance which must have executed. Yes, we can see that work order synchronization has happened. We can see the work order number over here. Now we can go up over here, and this was our resource. If we just come back from the Wednesday to Thursday, we can see that the new activity has been added. We can look at the details of this scheduled activity, and we can see it has synchronized all the information from the Fusion service. The only information which is missing is account number. Now this information is not synchronized out of the box. What we can do is we can create the extension to meet this requirement. Let's now go ahead and do some extensibility. Okay, now to extend this scenario, we need to extend this integration flow. So before extending, let's deactivate. Now as the integration has been deactivated, let's quickly edit it. Okay, now we need to update the customer number field in here to have the account information come. Now with 2306 release of Oracle integration, we support now extend before as well as after. So we could place the extension group before, which was already supported. Now we could also do it after. So we will see how we could use both of these functionality in today's demo. So let me first start with extending before. So I've added the extension group. In here, let me first add a switch. Let me edit the criteria. Okay, now I've defined this configuration where I'm saying essentially is that account exists in the source because it's possible user may not select it. So let's synchronize. Now let's add a data stitch here. Now what I've done essentially is I've assigned the customer number to the account party ID. So one can easily find these fields and then drag and drop to build this stitch criteria. Okay, now let's synchronize it. Now that this is synchronized, what we could do in case of the post extension is we could check if there are any errors. So what I could do is I could iterate through. So the new functionality in 2306 release of Oracle integration is we have now support for each. So in here I can say if the activity has failed, I can iterate through the results. Okay, so I can say for each result, and in here I can have further check where I can say if the result has error. If result has error. So in here we can check if result has error. We can accordingly update the additional variables to affect the future flow of execution. So see, using these extension capability, I have added more capability in my accelerator, as well as I have enriched the functionality. Let's now save it, and let's go back and test this updated accelerator. So I'm going to activate the integration which I just extended. As the extension has completed, let's go back and create another work order. The work order has been submitted. Let's again refresh. Okay, now that we can see that work order has been synchronized, let's go back to the Oracle integration and go to the observability. And we can see that the work order has been synchronized and few additional activities are going on. So we should be able to now go back to the, we can see that 157 work order has been scheduled for the entire day. And if we click on it and go to the details, we will see that the account number is now synchronized. We can also see from the activity stream that the flow has executed the extensions. And in fact, we can also see that using the for each, we were able to iterate through the data. We can see over here that it has iterated just once, but it has iterated through the data and there were no errors. So which is all good. We can see everything has went well. So now what we would like to do is we would like to export these extensions and then import them into the another instance so that we can move these extension from dev to test to production. So let's do that. So we are back to the project. So to export the extension, all one needs to do is click on export. So its extended accelerator is already selected. Select the deployment. For in our case, it is 23C1 and then export it. So we will see that it has downloaded the accelerator. So this is done. Now all we need to do is log into another OIC system and then import it. So let's do it. Okay. So now I have logged into the other Oracle integration instance. Here, if I go into the projects, I do not see the accelerator installed. So all I need to do is click on add and then upload a car file. Let me drop the car file which I've just created and then just click on import. So you'll see that the extended accelerator has been imported. If I click on edit, we will see that it has brought in all the required artifacts, lookup table connections and integrations. So let's see if the extension that we have put up in the work order created have been brought forward or not. Yes, we can see that extension which we did before and even the after extension, both have been successfully brought up by exporting and importing the accelerator. So that concludes my demo. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello everybody, welcome to this video where we take a look at our B2B capabilities in OIC3. We will look at onboarding a trading partner, and while doing that focus on these features. Trading partner onboarding, which includes the schemas, document and connection definition, low-code orchestration, which is required for processing documents, message tracking, and from an operational aspect, we'll also look at redelivering transactions. Here is the use case, which is part of a order to cash transaction that we will use to drive this demo. We have a product manufacturer who is an OIC B2B customer and is looking to do business with a retailer called Acme. They are exchanging a 850 purchase order via AS2, and we will see all the exchanges that happen in that context. In order to implement this, we will go through these steps, which will highlight the features mentioned earlier. So with that, let's get into the demo now. So here is our OIC3 platform, and on the left we are able to see the B2B menu with all the configuration underneath. We have the host profile where we define the organization level details. This is our schema section. Now out of the box, we support standards such as Edifact, X12, OAGS, and custom XML formats. In the near future, we are also adding support for RosettaNet and positional files. Here we are able to not only define schemas for our custom XML by importing XSDs, which is of course mandatory, but we can also customize any of these standard transactions and to match our business requirements. However, this is optional. The document section is where we can define various documents that will be exchanged, and it's important for our TP setup. This is where we either use the out-of-the-box standard documents, or we can choose any of the customized documents from the schemas. This is also where we define the business identifiers, which will be used to track our business transactions. Moving on to our trading partner screen. Here we can create a trading partner, and we can configure all their basic TP information such as contact name, email, phone, etc. for easily contacting any point of contact with the trading partner. The B2B identifier section we can define all the important identifiers such as AS2 identifier or the interchange ID, which will be used for exchanging the EDI documents. Notice how this list is curated to configure only the most important details so as to not overwhelm the user. The transports and agreement section is where we define the communication or transport preferences along with the inbound and outbound document exchange agreements. Now, speaking of transports, another important B2B component is the support for protocols. Currently, we support AS2 and FTP, which also includes SFTP, and we are adding more protocols such as REST and RosettaNet in the future. So now let's look at AS2. Once we select AS2, we need to select a connection. We either select a pre-configured connection, or we can create one from here. We can, as you can see, there's a host of applications and protocols that we support. We are interested in AS2 for now. We create this, and this houses all the basic AS2 configurations such as the URL and all the security parameters such as the private key and the certificates that are required for the connection. Now, once we are back here, we can configure rest of the transport specific configurations and save them. In the agreements, as I said, we can define the documents that are exchanged. For inbound, the important things are the document that needs to be exchanged, this along with the backend integration, which will process this particular document needs to be configured, and we are done. Same thing with the outbound agreements. We select the document that needs to be exchanged and the transport that is used for sending this document out, which is populated from the list of transports that are configured here. With that, our TP configuration is done. Now let's quickly take a look at some of the B2B related integrations. So here we have the ACE2 receive and send integrations. Now these are two specific integrations that are created during our transport setup. With this, we get greater control on how we do business with this particular trading partner. Let's drill into one of our integrations here and see our low code, drag and drop, and configuration based integration canvas that can be used to fulfill any complex business requirements. Here you can see all the different actions that can be used. It's a simple drag and drop on the palette. We also see all the connections that are available for us to use in this integration canvas. And it's graphical in nature, very intuitive, and it's easy to develop. Now, we already have our setup done. So let's execute a transaction. So here I have another OIC instance, which will mimic a trading partner. And here you can see the order. I'm just going to edit it to say GN order 1. So this is now successful. Here to observability, where we have the B2B tracking. Here we see the business messages and wire messages section. The business messages section shows all the processed B2B transactions with information such as direction, transaction type, trading partner, and status at a glance. We also have the business identifier with the order number here, which we just processed. We can also drill into this business message to see more details about the message that was exchanged, along with the payloads and the correlation, which allows us to really tie up the end-to-end interactions that took place. Things like the integration that was executed, the functional acknowledgement associated with this, and of course the wire message. Now, talking about the wire message, this is where we can see all the exchanges on the transport layer. Here you can see a bunch of AS2 exchanges with all the pertinent information right on the main screen. Here too, we are able to drill down for more details about the exchange, the payload itself, and again the correlation, which ties down the business message, the MDN that was exchanged, and of course the integration that executed this. We also have a host of search filters which can help us to easily zero in on any transaction. This, along with all the information available, should greatly help us in troubleshooting any transactions. Now, from an operational standpoint, we support the resubmission of transactions. So let's assume this inbound message, although successful, our backend system was unable to process it, or maybe it even failed. So now we are able to resubmit this by clicking the resubmit button here and click resubmit. Now, once we go into this, under correlations, we can see there's one resubmitted message. When we click into this, it filters to that particular resubmitted message, and you can see it was successful. In the correlations for the resubmitted message, we also have a link back to the original message, which also shows a resubmitted tag along with details about who did it and when it was executed. Now coming to the outbound resubmit, we can resubmit a wire message, which will basically resend the payload to the destination. So as you can see, there's a resubmit on this. I click resubmit. And similar to the business message, you can see under correlation, there's one resubmitted message. When I click on it, it filters to that particular resubmitted instance. And the correlation under this has a link back to the original message, which also has a resubmitted tag. So, in summary, we looked at how we can support both traditional and modern B2B with an intuitive PP onboarding experience, low-code orchestration development, and of course, enhanced tracking and operational controls to support all the business needs. So that was a look into our B2B capability. Thanks for watching. Hello, everybody. Today we are going to take a look at how we can create an XML schema and use that as part of our B2B setup. So for that, we go into the B2B schema section. And here in the create option, we see a new entry called custom. So when we click on custom, we are asked to choose a schema, an XSD. So I have a simple XSD here. You can click open and it loads up the root element within that XSD. You can select that, fill all the required information, and click Create to create the XML schema. Now this of course is a simple XSD, but what if we have a complex XSD with a base XSD which points to multiple different sub XSDs? We support that as well. So we need to add all those XSDs into a zip file like we see here and import that. Now we can see all the root elements from different XSDs shown here. We now have to choose the base XSD's root element. So let's say I call this transit. This is document version 1, and this is a transit document. We click create. So here it shows all the information that you just keyed in. Confirm this is the root element, and we go ahead and get out of this. Now that our schema is created, we go ahead and create the document. Similar to the schema, we choose custom. We give a document version and a document type. In here, we can see it's a custom document standard, and we here can choose the XML schema that we just created. We can add the business identifiers, any unique identifier from the XSD, we can provide that. You can see it confirms that this is an XML document type, and this is the place where we provide a XPath expression which will help us match the incoming XML document to this particular XML document and schema. For example, like this. So what this does is it looks for FDG inbound element within the XML payload that has been received, and if it is found, it then matches it with this document. So that's how the document identification happens. We also have the option of identifying the document through a value. If that is the way we want to do it, we can just add text and then give a value something, let's say begin. So what happens in this case is it tries to look for this element and the value within that element, and if it matches this text, then it associates it with this document. So that's how we set this document up. We go ahead and click save, and now we are ready to use this as part of our trading partner setup. We go into transports and agreements. Transports is the place where we define the communication or the transport preferences for this particular trading partner. So if you're doing business with this trading partner using AS2 or FTP, FTP includes SFTP as well, you can just select the appropriate transport and then configure rest of the information. In the near future, you will see support for Rosetta Net along with REST-based communications as well, and more will come in the future. So once you selected the type of the protocol, you will also need to configure the connection information. We already saw how we can configure a connection in one of the earlier videos. So we're going to just select one of the connections for now. In the partners identifier for AS2, you will see when we click on this, it lists the AS2 identifier that we just configured here. And under host identifier, you see the AS2 identifier for the host profile. This is the place where you can find the URL that needs to be shared to the trading partner so that they can communicate back to us. And this will be visible once this transport is configured and deployed as it reads here. A is to send A is to subject. We can give any subject for now. The content type, typically we use EDI consent if there are a bunch of other options that can be used as well. Signature, we can select one of these algorithms for the signature, and similarly one of the algorithms for encryption, whether compression is required or not. In this section we define the MDN options. Here you can see we have an option of sync or async MDN, and if that MDN needs to be signed or not. Now if we are requesting a signed MDN, then appropriate certificates need to be configured in the connection. Same thing if we are expecting signature and encryption settings here, then those values need to be configured in the connection level. Here we define a prefix which is specific to this trading partner. In this case, I can say DIST, and you can see this adds this to the integration names below. So this helps in identifying that these two integrations that are pre-created or auto-created by us belongs to this particular trading partner. So what are these two integrations, right? So this is a ACE to receive integration, which is used for receiving the incoming payloads from the trading partner, and the send um, integration will be used to send outbound documents to this particular trading partner. And these are auto-generated and are automatically used in our processing as required. This also gives an additional flexibility where the user is able to modify these to add additional specific activities or tasks that need to be executed while receiving or sending. If they do not need to add anything at this level, they can always add their business logic as part of the backend integration, which process incoming data, or the outbound integration, which generates the data to be sent out. A name, and we click add. So now that we have done that, you can see it's successfully created, but the status is not deployed. Quickly at this point, I'll also walk through adding an FTP transport. Similar to the AS2, we need to select um, an FTP connection, or you can add from here. But notice that the rest of these settings have changed depending on the protocol that is chosen. So for FTP, we have under receive options, you can see the input directory, the file name filter, the age of the files, the maximum files that needs to be picked up. Under send, you can see the output directory information and the output file name that needs to be configured. And similar to what we saw earlier, you need to provide a prefix for this as well, so that it can uniquely identify these pre-created or auto-created integrations to belong to this particular trading partner. So let's go ahead and deploy this transport now. So now this transport has been deployed. So if we quickly look into this, we are now able to see the endpoint URL where the trading partner can send their payloads to us, and that needs to be shared. We can also see that these two integrations have been created and it's in activated state. Now let's look at how to create inbound agreements. Inbound agreements are basically the settings that needs to be applied for processing incoming documents from this particular trading partner. So let's assume that we are um, accepting purchase orders from this particular distributor. So we can choose a purchase order document that we have created already. And once we select it, you can see the details of the document that has been selected. Now that we have selected the document that we expect, what should happen with this particular document once it's received? And that will be taken care of by the backend integration that is configured here. Essentially, once the document is received, if we need to process it, convert it to one of the backend applications format, and then send it to that. That is basically orchestrated within this particular integration, and we select that particular integration here. Under agreement settings, you can see whether you need to enable any of the EDI level validations that can be configured here. Whether this particular transaction requires a functional acknowledgement to be generated and sent back, that is also configurable here. And if the control number is required to be checked for duplicates. So those are the options that we can configure here. And we can click add. So let's go ahead and deploy this inbound agreement now. And you can see it's successfully deployed now. Now coming to outbound agreements, this is again similar to the inbound agreements, but this is used when we need to send any documents to this particular trading partner. Let's call this outbound agreement. Here we again, similar to inbound agreement, choose what is the document that we'll be exchanging here. So let's say it's an invoice, and you can see it's X12 40 30 810. Now, since this is an outbound document, we need to configure the identifiers for the envelope that will be created for the X12 EDI document. So under identifiers, now you will see the interchange ID, and if you have configured the group ID and qualifiers and everything, those will be listed as well. So you can select those which are specific to this trading partner. Similar to that, you can see these are the host identifiers that have been configured. So you can select all of those. This is the section where we will choose which transport needs to be used um, to communicate. So in this case, since we have configured the AS2 transport, that's listed here, and we can select that. The agreement settings here also has enable validations and whether we expect a functional acknowledgement to be sent back to us. Click add, and this also now can be deployed. Partner has been now onboarded, and that's it. Thank you for watching. One of the important components for B2B is basically the support for protocols. So today we'll take a look at how we can configure an AS2 connection to our trading partner. So under design and connections, we are now able to create a connection for AS2. We go ahead and give a name for our connection and click create. Now this is created in the role of trigger and invoke, meaning the trading partner can trigger an AS2 connection to us, and we are also able to invoke a connection back to the trading partner. The AS2 service URL is basically the trading partner's AS2 endpoint, and this will be used to invoke a connection to the trading partner, and it will look something like this. Under optional parameters, we have the option of enabling two-way SSL, and for that we need to provide the client's identity key as well. This is again optional. But under security, we have two policies, the basic and advanced policy. The basic policy requests minimal security parameters as seen here. The username and password, although it says optional, is kind of required for the trading partner to connect to OIC. This is a mandatory requirement from OIC for security purposes. So what needs to happen is we will need to create a service user for the trading partners and provide those credentials to them so that they are using those credentials while connecting to OIC via AS2. And those same credentials need to be configured here so that when the connection is initiated, we can now validate them against this and authenticate. Private key is used for, again, decryption and signature generation. This is OIC's private key, and this needs to be uploaded in the certificate manager, and the alias needs to be specified here. The key password, which is associated with this private key, needs to be defined here. And the partner's public certificate again needs to be uploaded in under the certificate management, and that alias needs to be used here. And then this certificate will be used for encryption and signature verification. Under advanced policies, so as you can see, it is much more granular in nature, but typically most of the configurations rely on basic policies. So once all these parameters are set up, you can go ahead and click test and then save this connection. Hello everybody. Today we're going to take a look at the new feature in our B2B component, which is the support for REST protocol as part of the DP setup. So what this allows us to connect to our trading partners via the REST protocol. So we were able to connect to the TP ecosystem via the AS2 and the FTP connections, but going forward we'll also be supporting generic REST or generic HTTP. So the way we set up is similar to what we do for other trading partner setups. So here I have a trading partner, and as you can see, there are no transports that have been configured. When I click into this, I now see the option of REST along with the other protocols that are supported. I click in REST, and similar to other protocols, you will have to select one of the connections. The connection setup remains the same, so I'm not going to go deep into that. Assuming there's a connection that's already set up, we can choose that connection. Under receive, we do not have any specific settings. All the settings that are configured under the connection will be honored. Once this transport is deployed, we will see the URI that should be shared with the trading partner in order to communicate or receive any data from the trading partner. In the send section, we have the send URI parameter. This is the parameter that can be configured in conjunction with the URL that is configured within the connection. So what this allows is to configure a resource on the trading partner's end where they will be able to receive data. And we go ahead and click her name and click add. So it's a very minimal kind of configuration for the transport to be set up. Majority of the configuration is anyways within the connection. You can go ahead and deploy this. And all the configurations from an inbound agreement standpoint remains the same. There is no changes there. The outbound agreements, you can now see the REST transport being listed here, and that can be used. Rest of the configuration remains the same, so we're not going to go more deeper into it. So that's pretty much how you set up the trading partner. I already have a trading partner who's been configured with the REST protocol. We have a couple of inbound agreements and outbound agreements set up as well, and they're all deployed. Here is my backend integration for an outbound PO that I need to send to my trading partner. So I'm gonna simulate that. So here I have an order that I would like to send, and go ahead and click send. So this has been sent successfully. So I'm just going to quickly jump into my B2B tracking under observability. And what I can see now is a new transaction, which is an X12 4010 850 that was sent to this trading partner. And these are the payloads. So under the wire message, now I can see that the transport that was used was REST. And this is the trading partner. And this is the payload that was sent. We can process inbound requests as well. So let's take a look at one such instance. So I'm gonna simulate an inbound request via REST protocol that we just configured. So as you can see, the process has successfully completed. So we can now go into B2B tracking. And here we see a new entry for an inbound 850. And under correlations, when we go into wire message, you can see an inbound payload that just came in. So that was the demo for the support of REST protocol. Thank you and see you in the next one.